Thank you. Thank you very much, Paul. I'm sure that there are some people that are going to grab you during the tea. So you're not going to be able to drink tea or eat anything. All right. So the last speaker today is Matt Percival. Matt has an MBA from Massey University. He has 24 years project management experience, probably over 24 by now. He is currently the director of Projectify Limited, which is a consultancy focused on project setup, reviews and audits. But the main reason that Matt is here today is that as part of his MBA, he researched rolling out the mentorship program for PMI across New Zealand. He also has experience in Australia and New Zealand with business mentors. He is the National Mentoring Program Manager for PMI NZ. Today he will tell us more about how the mentoring program works and how to get involved. So thank you very much, Matt.
Thanks, Lulu. Thanks, Lulu. Wow, is everyone excited?
Yes.
It's actually great being part of the conference, and I'm standing on some sort of frame here. Also with the speakers here today, some of them are fantastic international speakers, so you should all be pretty chuffed to be in such a good space with everyone. Right, I had to have a slide up there, that's great. The first question I have for everyone here is, why are you here? What brought you here? Obviously you're students and you're studying, but what made you decide on that course of action? Anyone volunteer some answers? Mr.
I wanted to hear what you guys had as professionals in the industry and had as like a spin on your take on project management and why you think it's something that should be developed.
Okay, but what about even going back, perhaps when you're at school, what made you decide, and it was a good answer, but what made you decide on the course of studies that you're doing now? I mean, even if you want to go back to when, you know, before you were at school, what sort of things did you think about that you wanted to study? I mean, if I take, for example, my son, he's 10 years of age, he wants to be an archaeologist. And I say to him, why does he want to be an archaeologist? Because I like digging up stuff. That's cool. So that's his reason. And if you go back a little bit even more, why does he want to dig up stuff? Because he likes playing in the sandpit, you know? He likes doing stuff like that where he's getting his hands dirty. So, hands up, anyone's heard of root cause analysis? Yeah, a few people? The general rule of thumb with root cause analysis is you ask the question why 7 times to really get to the root of why you're actually doing something. So, you know, we are talking about project management, but why are we talking about project management? What does it actually do for us? What is it in our own personal values that we're seeking to fulfill? Having studied at university, like some people do a lot throughout their lives, especially my sister, she's 6 years older than me, she's still studying, and I think she always will study. That's just, you know, how she feeds off things. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But the key thing is, what is she actually trying to achieve? It's fulfillment. She actually enjoys learning. And if you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is something you may have come across, yeah, I see a few nods. The base level is security. You know, what are we doing to basically look after our personal security, safety, food and water, housing, that sort of stuff. But as you get to the top of the triangle, it's more about fulfillment and about giving something back to the community that we're in. You could argue people like the police and maybe the ambulance officers, they are feeling fulfilled because they're actually helping people in the community. So that's one of the key things that we actually looked at. Horrible stand. Where's that plug? Thanks. If we go back to the start of the mentoring program when we convened last year, the question was, why are we actually here? You know, we had 4 or 5 people in the room, volunteers. Some of them were simply mentors, some of them were more about wanting to help roll out the program. So we've got regional coordinators, but we actually asked ourselves, what are we here for? What are we trying to achieve? And it's not just about educating people. You may have heard Suni and Nick and Alicia talking about learning, but also learning in a personal sort of like worldwide type of environment. It's not just about education, it's also about tying everything together and actually figuring things out. I'm probably rambling a little bit here, but that's okay. So, has anyone really got a good, I guess, example of why they're here? Is it something that's you know, you've wanted to do for all of your life? Is it something that you're having to do perhaps because you want to have a family and feel successful? Is there any sort of like standout examples? The engineers over here maybe? Yep.
I probably jumped into engineering because I enjoy being sort of thrown in the deep end and just enjoyed problem solving.
So yeah, thrown in the deep end and problem solving.
Yeah.
I think I'm a bit with you. I'm a mechanical engineer. That's how I studied. I went through school, loved doing stuff with machines and woodworking and that sort of stuff and design. And I like being thrown in the deep end. Some of the projects I've worked on, one could argue, are pretty challenging. For instance, one was a dairy factory in Otago. It was a greenfield site, which basically means there was just paddocks there before we started. And 2 years later, it was a fully functioning nutritionals powder factory. And a lot of people said that it was a very problematic project, but I actually like getting involved in those sorts of tricky ones. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit off topic. The mentoring program, if I go through these slides, it won't take long, there's only about 5 of them. We have got the business case approved by the board, so it's fully supported by the board of PMI NZ. We actually get the mentees and mentors, and you can be both as well. It's not actually exclusive. Some of the people in project management and in my careers have done both. Quite often you're starting off as a mentee and then you progress to be a mentor, but you can actually have more than one mentor at a time. People like Richie McCaw, you know, used to be the All Blacks captain. He's been both mentee and mentor through his life, and so he's also giving back now as a seasoned professional in rugby mentoring. We've also got professional trainers. We went and did a course a few months ago in Wellington with a lady, I forget her name, but that was rolled out to the regional coordinators so that we can actually then pass that formal training on to all of the mentors in New Zealand, and so that we've got a structured program that's got significant background and research to it. Just going back a bit too, I was just thinking about when I was in Australia, why I got into mentoring was because I was with the Australian Institute of Project Management before I knew about PMI, and I was involved in a mentoring program there, and so I've really enjoyed being the mentors for those particular mentees that I was involved with, but I've also really seen the significance of how it can build people's careers. And so that's why it's really important, I think, to try and give back that sort of fulfillment spin to not only mentors, but also as a program manager to try and actually get it through the whole country. And it's not exclusive to PMI. We actually are opening it up to people who are in aligned organisations, as it says there, but also individuals on a case-by-case basis. So if you're interested, by all means give us an email or an application form. So just going through it, it's about not just professional development. You heard about the education side of things, and you're obviously doing the education side of things from a formal point of view, but it's also about personal growth. And this is one of the things I really had to argue for. It's not just about your professional career, it's all of it. Because you can't sort of separate the personal and the professional stuff. It's actually the whole gambit. I mean, how do you know one of your networking colleagues isn't going to be one of your bosses in the future, or maybe you'll be working for that person in the future? So quite often with your personal networks, friendships, they may lead into a professional network or a job, for instance. So you need to be focused on both. It's not just in isolation. So sharing knowledge and experience, learning and support, and so the program that we have, we've tried to purposefully align it to the NZQA standard, which is mentoring in an organisation. but we also want to make sure that it's replicable. You know, year by year, it's similar to a prescribed course. And also by doing that, we can make sure it's sustainable, and we can make sure that we can improve upon stuff that we've done in the past. So we suggest it's running from 6 months to 9 months. There's no reason why you can't continue a mentoring relationship with your persons that are involved in the relationship. But from a program point of view, we just like to try and keep it within a year. So 6 to 9 months, maybe 12 months, depends on whether you go to a holiday to Las Vegas or wherever else. I'm sure if you're students, you're probably holidaying to Central Otago maybe. So the key aspects of the program, we actually match the mentors with the mentees. So you might fill out a form that we've got online, or you can fill out a form. I've got some here in my bag. And we look at people's experiences and look at what they want to do and how often they want to meet, where they want to meet, all that sort of stuff. And so when we look at all the different characteristics of each person's reason why they want to get involved in the program, we try and match it to make sure there's alike values and reasons. Goal and action oriented, personal and professional. So when I say goal and action oriented, it's more about identifying the goals of what you're trying to achieve. Again, going back to that why question. If you're wanting to, for example, get a job, Paul was talking about, you know, how we do our CV and all that sort of stuff. The mentoring program can talk about that, but it's more aligned about knitting it all together. So it's not just about getting a job and writing up a CV. It's about how do you communicate with the potential interview panel in the job interview. So it's all that sort of soft stuff. People talk about soft stuff all the time. I actually don't think it's really soft stuff, but that's a code word that's used often, because it's quite well documented that it is valuable about how we go about those relationships and how we go about those conversations. So it is, another term that comes up to mind is tacit. Some of the stuff is actually hard to codify. It's hard to put into a book, which is why I think the mentoring program is taking all the existing stuff, which is, you know, your formal education and formal sharing of knowledge, but how do you actually tie it all together into a simple story? And that's one of the things that I've learned when I was doing my masters, is actually telling the story. When you can tell a good story, and you know, people who like going to the pub and telling jokes, they're good storytellers. And I've got, in fact, Brendan Lovegrove, he's one of the guys I went to school with. He's a well-known comedian in New Zealand. He loves telling stories, but some of them, sometimes I don't believe. Anyway, this actually is the ProMap system of how we go about matching. It's pretty simple. I think, is this little, yeah, here we go. So here's the start, applying for the program. We get the applicants to fill out online or on a bit of paper. We match the mentor and mentee. We do a bit of an introduction and training if they need it. It's not necessarily have to be. For example, an existing mentor may already know how to go about doing the briefing and the training. Then they go through, make regular contact, we suggest once a month, and manage the relationship. The mentor is meant to be the manager of the relationship, but also the regional coordinators regularly make contact with them to make sure things are going. And then there's a feedback system here after the relationship and during, to make sure we've got continuous improvement down here. So that was a ProMap system of trying to map it out. Pretty simple. So I think that's the last slide, which is fantastic. So you see here we've actually got four regional coordinators. Ashley Waters, who's also now a board member of PMI NZ. Fiona here, she's our southern coordinator. In fact, I think we actually have to start calling them branch coordinators rather than regional coordinators. So, chapter coordinators, that's right. So we have got this slide up to date. And Jane and Ian in Central. So yeah, there's the registration forms that are online, or that email address. Now I do have some brochures to hand out. Oh, by the way, has anyone got any... Oh, thank you. Has anyone got any of those questions filled out yet? I see some blank forms and so forth. So yeah, the brochure basically goes through some of the benefits of why the program is useful to you. And if you don't need the brochures, please leave them on the table so I can gather them later if you've had a read, because we are on a budget with printing. So anyone have any questions right now? Yep.
Can I ask a question? With your matching process, do the mentees have any, like, do we have any option to choose as well as move forward? On the website, does it have a list of who the mentors are and their skill sets?
Yeah, so the question is, can we choose the mentors? Not straight away. What we would do is set you up with a preferred mentor that we would recommend, and then you have a discussion, and if you like them, then the relationship can go forward, and if you don't like them, we can find you another person. So it's not quite pick and mix type of thing, but it is something that you have to agree to. If you don't like that mentor, they smell bad or whatever, then we can find you another one. Good question.
How much does it cost?
Yeah, the cost to the mentor, we were actually, the old program was charging the mentor about $30 a year. The new program they were running is $200 plus GST per mentee per relationship. So if you're, well, maybe not necessarily employed by some people, but if you are interested in getting your company to supply that financing, then certainly approach us and we can work out a deal. But if you think about it, 6 to 9 months worth of meetings with a well-experienced project manager, you might be